Here's why your girlfriend loses attraction for you when you do exactly what she asks. She asks you, be more vulnerable, be more emotionally available. And so you do. You open up, you talk about your feelings, you ask her how she feels, maybe you even cry in front of her. And suddenly, she doesn't look at you the same way. She doesn't seem to be attracted to you in the same way. If this has happened to you, you're not crazy and you're not alone. Modern men receive fundamentally contradictory advice about how we should behave in relationships. On the one hand, we're told to be emotionally available, vulnerable, soft, kind, etc. On the other hand, we're told that women are only attracted to strength, power, ability to provide resources, ability to be influential in the world. We're told, share your feelings. And then we're also told, maintain frame, be strong, show leadership. So which is it? And is it any wonder that men are confused about precisely how they should behave? Especially because both sides of this argument claim to know what women really want. So you try vulnerability, you try being more emotionally available, and you feel the woman pulling away or being less attracted to you. So you try being stoic and strong and silent. And then she complains that you're never present emotionally and you won't have a good conversation with her and you never show any vulnerability and that you're disconnected. I hesitated to make this video because I don't want to participate in the culture war, in the gender culture wars. But I see the advice that men get and how confused we get, and also that how women are dissatisfied with certain aspects of relationship with men. And a lot of this has to do with communication and listening. And so I wanted to try to wade in and see if I can say something constructive and useful. This isn't about choosing sides in the gender wars or the culture wars. It's about trying to understand what actually works in relationships and trying to provide some constructive advice in that direction. I'm Bruce Lambert from How Communication Works. This is a channel where I teach you about communication skills so you can improve your relationships, succeed at work, and be more confident. If you like this kind of content, check out the latest learning resources that I have linked in the description and the pinned comment. So here's the uncomfortable truth about attraction, maybe one that we're not supposed to talk about. If you're in the 95th percentile of attractiveness or wealth or power, you probably don't have to worry too much about your listening skills. You probably don't have to worry too much about being emotionally available or vulnerable. You're going to have lots of options. Many, many women are going to be attracted to you because of your wealth and power and physical attractiveness. But even those guys, if they want something deeper, sometimes hit a wall because power and wealth and physical attractiveness, though they will attract a lot of women, may not get you the long-term, deeper connection that you're looking for. Initial attraction and sustainable connection operate on different timelines and sometimes on different attributes. But we shouldn't fool ourselves, and I won't lie about this. Attraction is the most important thing in relationships. Attraction is what gets you in the door. Without it, you won't even have a chance. But without some level of emotional intelligence and ability to connect at a more meaningful level, you'll just be another guy who had potential, but who women leave. The guys who last and build something real know how to be both strong and attractive and emotionally available. For the rest of us who aren't in the top 5% of wealth or power or physical attractiveness, and by definition, that's the other 95% of us, some level of emotional intelligence isn't an option. We have to have it if we want to compete. And for those of us who aren't in the top 5% of those core attractiveness attributes, emotional intelligence may give us some competitive advantage and allow us to compete with guys who coast on those other more superficial attributes. To understand what's going on here at a deeper level, we have to understand the difference between what economists call expressed preferences and revealed preferences. Expressed preferences is what people say they want. Revealed preferences is what people show us they want by the choices they actually make. And when it comes to the contemporary dating scene and the way modern men and women behave, what women say they want, that's their expressed preferences, is often different than what they actually are attracted to. That is, their revealed preferences about what they want in men. And this isn't because women are lying. I don't think women are lying. It's because cultural constraints, norms, and cultural narratives constrain what people feel comfortable saying out loud. So the things that really attract women to men, maybe things like physical attractiveness, power, money, prestige, influence, etc., contradict some cultural narratives about what we're supposed to want in a romantic partner, meaning an emotionally available soulmate kind of character. So a woman might say she wants a man who cries at movies and shares every emotional feeling, but what she actually responds to is a man who can understand and respond reasonably to emotions, but isn't swept away by any feelings and maintains control and some sense of power and ability to protect the woman from the dangers in the world. and a man who doesn't collapse under pressure. One of the most obvious places where this is apparent is in all of the memes around women who get the ick. The ick is a kind of visceral, gut-level repulsion that some women feel when they see men do certain things. And there's a guy on TikTok who makes a long list of all the things that give women the ick. And so many of the things that give women the ick are really displays of physical or emotional vulnerability. Anything where the world can affect a man gives women the ick. And this is where their revealed preferences show through. Even though they say they might want emotional vulnerability, actual displays of physical or emotional vulnerability in the world, of being affected by the world, give women the ick. And of course, this is extremely confusing about men who are trying to decide how they should behave. The truth is somewhere in between. And of course, I can't speak for women, but I'm 60 years old. I've had a lot of experience in relationships, and I've made a lot of observations by being a student of human communication for the past 35 years. I think women genuinely want human connection, emotional connection, meaningful connection, which involves some level of emotional availability from their male partners. And mostly I'm talking about heterosexual relationships here because that's what I know most about. Women also want to feel safe and protected and led by men, and they want men to have power and influence and resources. These things are not necessarily contradictory. They're complementary. I think if women could be completely honest, they would say they want both of these things. But cultural narratives constrain their ability to freely say they want some of these things like power or to be led or resources. But from the male point of view, we need to understand that we need both, not just the things women say they want, but the things that women reveal that they want by their actual choices. One of the things that made this very clear to me was a couple of books I read by the couples therapist and author Terry Real, or Terrence Real. His last name is Real, R-E-A-L. And he's written several really good books, one about male depression and a couple of others about relationship communication. And he's a very harsh critic of the patriarchy. He believes the patriarchy is an underlying cause of lots of problems in relationships between men and women. But I think his critique of the patriarchy goes too far because it doesn't acknowledge women's revealed preferences, that is, their actual attraction to characteristics like power, money, prestige, influence, ability to protect, ability to provide. But he does give a lot of useful ways of thinking about relationship communication. And overall, I'm a big fan of his approach, especially if we can temper some of the harsh criticism of the patriarchy and incorporate some of the realities about what I've been calling revealed preferences. So Terry Real talks about how a lot of relationship advice forces us to one extreme or another. So one extreme is pure vulnerability without boundaries or self-control or power. This causes a loss of respect and attraction. Another extreme is sort of pure stoicism, no displays of emotion, and no emotional connection, just power only, strong silent type, and no emotional connection. And this leads to emotional disconnection. Both of these extreme approaches fail because they're only getting at half of the equation. Terry Real suggests, and I agree, that we shouldn't see emotional intelligence or vulnerability as the opposite of strength, but the two as multiplying one another. So the question is how to be emotionally available and present and still maintain the strength and frame and power that the women reveal they're actually attracted to. So I don't think women are actually asking for weakness when they ask for emotional availability or emotional vulnerability. What they're asking for is range and flexibility, the capacity to be a strong protector and provider when necessary, and the capacity to be vulnerable and to be able to connect and listen when that's necessary. And when being vulnerable, not to completely lose all sense of power and boundaries, but to maintain that sort of masculine frame, for lack of a better word, while still being available emotionally. So what does this look like in practical terms? It seems like this is contradictory advice. How can we be both? Strength means maintaining composure under pressure, including in intense emotional conversations, keeping our boundaries, keeping our values, maintaining our strength and poise. Emotional intelligence means accurate recognition of emotions, presence, ability to listen without giving advice, and to respond strategically. The challenge, of course, is to integrate these into our personality and into our repertoire of responses. Not easy, but also not impossible. These are learnable skills which, with dedication, we can learn. Remember, though, good listening or emotional availability or emotional vulnerability does not produce attraction. It does not replace attraction. It amplifies attraction. If you're a man, and this is true for women as well, because attraction is equally important for women, but if you're a man, you can't think that just being a better listener is going to overcome a lack of physical attractiveness or being influential in your community or having the other markers of power and prestige and influence that women reveal that they're attracted to. You still need the fundamentals to have that initial attractiveness. That's purpose, fitness, competence, etc. But without emotional intelligence, those things become depreciating assets. They become less valuable over time as women can always find someone who's more attractive, wealthier, etc. So what are some examples? Let's imagine your girlfriend or spouse or partner is talking about how she's upset about the politics in her office at work. You could be dismissive, the masculine way. Just ignore it. You're overreacting. You could be overinvolved. That's terrible. Let me show you how to fix it. Or you could try to be integrated. Say, that sounds really frustrating. What's your take on what's happening? This shows interest, but it doesn't show panic and it doesn't show disregard. It isn't accommodation. It's a sophisticated response to an important revelation from your girlfriend or partner or wife. You're gathering information while maintaining your center. That's attractive because it shows emotional range. We have to think about listening as a kind of strategic intelligence. How can we reposition vulnerability as a kind of strength? Many men equate listening with sort of passive agreement and submission. But what it really is gathering accurate and complete information while maintaining your boundaries and perspective and emotional frame. When you can stay present and calm during emotional intensity, you're demonstrating a rare capacity. Most people have a tendency to either merge or disconnect under this kind of emotional pressure, but you don't have to do either. Terry Real talks about how relationships are dynamic systems that fall into patterns. So the question is, what pattern are we falling into right now? Is it serving us? And if not, how can we change it? You might say, we fall into this pattern where I withdraw and you pursue, and this leaves us both feeling worse. How can we break out of this pattern? What are some kind of practical phrases that Terry Real might approve of? As the man, you might say, I'm getting reactive. Let's pause and let me actually hear you. Or if you're not agreeing with the way your girlfriend is responding, you don't have to express that disagreement. You can say something like, I really want to understand your experience. Help me understand it, even if I don't share your perspective or if my experience is different. Help me understand your experience, even if I have a different experience or a different perspective. And you can always fall back and think about the relationship as the real player here. You can say, what would work for both of us? What would be best for the relationship in this situation? What would success look like for both of us here? So here are two strategies that don't work and you should avoid. One, the accommodator. You agree to avoid conflict, you apologize a lot, and the result is a loss of respect and maybe even building resentment from your partner. The second pattern is sort of the fortress or the brick wall. You dismiss all discussion of emotions and you withdraw and you don't participate. You get defensive if there's ever a discussion of your behavior in the way maybe it needs to change. And the result is ultimately emotional distance and two people leading parallel lives. Accommodation without any authenticity breeds resentment. Boundaries without any empathy breeds isolation. The goal is some sort of authentic engagement where you maintain your sense of self and perspective and values and priorities while engaging seriously with the other person's perspective. I never said this was going to be easy, and I certainly haven't perfected it myself. As with most skills I teach on this channel, I teach them because I need to learn them, not because I've perfected them. Again, what are some phrases that are consistent with this advice? I see this differently, but I want to understand your view. That wasn't my intention, but I can see how that's how it landed. Can we take a pause? I need some time to think about this properly before responding. All of these get you out of a pattern of either reactivity or stonewalling. And this gets to one of Terry Real's best pieces of advice, I think, what he calls the strategic relational pause. One sign of emotional maturity and power in a man is that we don't have to react like we're some sort of animal, but we can thoughtfully respond. We can take in the information, we can think about the consequences, we can think about our goals, and then we can thoughtfully respond after some deliberation rather than intuitively, impulsively reacting. So how do we do this? We first feel the emotional charge, the intensity of some conversation. We take at least one full deep breath to give ourselves a time to process and to avoid the impulsive reaction. We ask ourselves, what's the outcome I want here for us, for the relationship, and for myself as well to a certain extent. And then we respond in an intentional, thoughtful, deliberate way rather than reacting impulsively. So this isn't suppression, this is emotional intelligence. We're feeling the feeling, but choosing our response. This is how we maintain poise, power, masculinity, and still listen. This is being both powerful and connected. Not in control of our emotions in the sense that we never feel them, or never heed them, or never pay attention to them, or never give voice to them, but that we're not controlled by them. Here's some phrases that might buy you time in a really intense, difficult conversation. That's important. I need some time to think about that. Or that's really important. I need to give that the attention it deserves, and I can't respond right now. Or I'm having a reaction that I don't think is a reflection of my best self. Let me have some time to process this. So the complete picture isn't, should I be strong or should I be sensitive? It's how do I develop both capacities and learn how to deploy them each when they're needed. So we want to lead with clarity and based on feedback that we gather from the situation. We want to maintain boundaries and our own values and priorities and still be open to being influenced by our partner. That's not weakness, that's being in a relationship. We want to be able to feel deeply. You can't really be strong if you're completely cut off from your emotions, but we want to respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. So the challenge is to connect in some intimate way while preserving our own dignity, our own independence, our own autonomy. Again, not easy. Most relationships have some period of stability and change, of safety and excitement, and of independence and connection. So I think one negative consequence of the gender wars and culture wars is that men feel stuck in having to choose between these two seemingly diametric opposites. But we can try to develop the full range of these skills in ways which are still true to our own conception of what it means to be a man. And that's not only attractive in our romantic and sexual relationships, but it's attractive in all of our relationships, other friendships and relationships at work as well. So to wrap things up, if you're extremely attractive, extremely rich, extremely powerful, you can get away with not being very emotionally available, not being a very good listener, at least temporarily, if you don't want a deeper long-term connection. But why limit yourself? If you're already powerful, prestigious, physically attractive, why not develop the full range of your capabilities and get what I think all of us want, which is both an attractive partner and a deep, meaningful relationship where we can be ourselves and connect at a deeper emotional level so we can enjoy the full richness of a human life. So this isn't about becoming something you're not. It's about developing the full range of masculine capability, both the traditional strengths and the relational intelligence, and then combining them into some whole that reflects your values and personality. If you like this kind of content and you like my style of teaching, I've put together some resources. You can find them in the link in the description and the pinned comment, and there's also a card and an end screen on this video. Whether you're starting from great strength or great sensitivity, the resources I've linked below should help you go further down this path. Some men see developing emotional intelligence as compensation for lacking the traditional masculine strengths, but I see it as a multiplying factor. Smart men see it as multiplication, taking whatever advantages you have and building on them to make them sustainable. Nothing I've said here contradicts the fundamental truth that attraction is the primary consideration, especially in the beginning of relationships. It's probably this way for evolutionary reasons that are not likely to change quickly. But ultimately, the question isn't whether we need emotional intelligence or the traditional masculine characteristics. If we want really exceptional relationships, which I think ultimately most of us do, it's a matter of developing both. And which one you develop first probably depends on which strengths you have at the beginning and what your starting point is. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time.